Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today, episode 98. So close to 100. I can hardly believe that we've had 98 episodes of this, and the amazing people, the amazing souls that have been drawn into our space is just inspiring, and it's amazing. That the people that are committed to something so much bigger than themselves in the midst of a global pandemic. It just is a reminder, as we say every week. It's just a reminder of what's available, what's on the other side of our fear, what's on the other side of our trauma, the wisdom and beauty that's to be experienced. And it's this question that I keep on, reminded myself, that I ask myself, but something that each guest that is on our stage is just a reminder, like, what could I do today to plant seed, like what can I do to plant seeds of joy for the people that I love, for the people that I like, for the people that I don't even know. And it's like it's this space to exist, that who I am is the possibility of love for my neighbor, for the world to experience, the beauty and the full spectrum of humanity and the divine expression of the universe in us all. And that's in me, that's in you, that's in every single one of your neighbors, whether they live right next door or whether they live across the world. That's the power that we all have. And it's something that is, it's an honor and a privilege to just hold this space, because we have, we have people from all over the world that are committed to something just greater than themselves. And the irony is in that, they discover themselves in being committed to something greater than themselves. And it's something that humbles me to the core each and every week. So I'm really excited about our guest today. First, let me welcome and say hello to our co-host, Matthew.
Bonjour.
Mahalo.
You keep saying mahalo.
I
Mahalo
don't
is
know.
thank
I
you.
don't think about it. Yeah. Just a thank you. Why did I mix that up?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you anyways, Matthew. Thank
Hey, como mai.
you. Yeah. Well, I think gratitude is the theme today. So I'm gonna hold to my mahalo.
I and I will hold to my como mai, which is welcome or you're welcome. Um, aloha is hello and a bunch of other things, just for the record.
That's yeah. That
Yeah.
that I know that, but for some reason mahalo keeps coming. I'm not taking it
Every
back.
single time. Every single time. It's okay. I appreciate it. I am grateful to be here too. Every week I'm grateful to be here actually. Like the few weeks that I miss, it's always a bit of a bummer because it's these conversations. Like we were talking about it backstage actually, Vismaya and I, about the power of conversation and how that can literally change the world. Like it may only change one person at a time or two people at a time because I guess you have to have two people to have a conversation, um, unless you're talking to yourself. But it's that willingness, it's simply being willing to sit down and have a conversation with someone you do not understand
Hmm.
can be the most powerful experience in the world. And that's something that I personally invite very strongly on this stage, is to come and talk and share about things that we don't normally talk about, to be vulnerable. And so it's often those conversations that lead to what you were talking about earlier, that possibility of being loving for everyone,
Hmm.
because it's in the conversations that we discover that, oh, they're not so different from me, or they're actually the same as me in a lot of ways. They are me in a lot of ways. And if I can love me, then I can love them, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's the conversations we have with others and with ourselves that really craft our existence. How we show up in the world. And seems relevant. I had a friend of mine reaching out. She said someone's taken it. She felt taken advantage of and was feeling sad about it. And it's like, what can I do about these feelings? How do I deal with these feelings? Like, this person took advantage of me, and I'm sad about it. And I was like, and I was asking her, well, what is, well, there's what happened, but what is the story? What is it? What are you telling yourself about what happened? Like, what happened to you happened, but what are you telling yourself about what happened? And she kept on like zooming out from that, and it was like, and this is talking to her as much as myself, is like, what we do is we make up stories about the things that happen to us. We conjure up reasons and ideas about why people do the things that they do, and we add all this meaning to something that, you know, isn't there. We bring that in the space, and I was just reminding her, as much as I was reminding myself, it's like it is a choice to recognize that we have feelings, we have thoughts, we possess those things, but that's not who we are. And then when we can recognize that we're not our thoughts, that we're not our feelings, that gives us the opportunity to not only rise above the feelings that are real and that are painful, but it offers the opportunity to be something greater, to identify with who, not who we're not, but with who we are as a divine expression of the universe, as something much bigger than just a thought up here or a feeling in our body, as real as those things are.
Yeah, I'd like to take a second to actually expand what you were talking about earlier about how we assign meaning to things when there may or may not actually be any meaning. Because that happens so fast. It's almost instantaneous for most people. Like, and it can be very hard to distinguish if it's something that you've never even played with or even thought about. So like the example that was shown to me, and this is something I still use because I found it to be very, very powerful. Um, Say you're in line at the grocery store and you see your buddy John, and John just walks by and walks out the door without even saying hi. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You're in line at the grocery store. John walked by, he walked out the door, didn't say hi. Often, almost immediately, what the mind wants to do is make up a story about what that means. So instead of just observing that, oh, John, there's John, John's walking out the door, it's, oh, John didn't say hi to me, he must be mad at me for some reason.
He doesn't like me. John
Yeah, and
hates me.
so immediately what happened in the head, in your mind, is, well, John walked out the door because he's mad at me. And that's what happened. But that's not what happened. That's the story that your mind made up.
Right. It's a beautiful example. It's because that happens to everybody. It's like, what did I do to make John so upset? And then like, maybe a couple days or a couple weeks go by, and it's like, I can't believe John ignored me, and I can't. And it's like the next time you see John, it's like, so what's the deal, John? Why are you so mad?
Yeah.
He's like, what? And it's
I
like,
see you, dude.
It's like I forgot my glasses that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
It's so true.
And that we do that all the time. Like that's, in essence, our mind is in some ways a meaning making machine. Like that's part of its job is to assign meaning to the events that happen, to bring life to the narrative.
Right.
But as far as I can tell, the reality is most, if not all of that meaning is something that has been made up or has been carried over from our parents, from our culture, from our friends, from the media we watched growing up, the books we read. Most of that meaning is all just story. And the more I dig through meaning, looking for fact, the less meaning I actually find. And that creates this really unique situation where I all of a sudden have the ability to recognize that everything is meaningless. And in that meaningless, I get to choose how I define meaning for myself. And that gives me the ability to create my world as I see fit. And it's a really fun process, actually, like to actually be able to define meaning for myself and choose what resonates and what I want to be meaningful in my life. And then use that to motivate me to go out and do the things that I feel drawn to do.
Right. Oh yeah, it's a powerful practice to be able to see in real time. I mean, because it's not something that ever stops. Like the meaning making machine. It's not like a one and done. It's like it's as life happens, we add meaning to things that what if people did the things that they do because they did them, not because of an idea that's popping up. It's like it's detaching experiential reality from how our minds are describing to ourselves what we're experiencing, and it's something that we always do.
And that ability to let go of every single reason for doing anything, in my experience, has been what has opened the door to allowing that thing that is bigger than me to choose, instead of Matthew deciding, instead of mentally deciding and coming up with reasons to do things and reasons why things exist and all the reasons. I don't have a reason why I do anything other than because that's what intuitively felt appropriate. That's, I can say it a million different ways. That's what God asked me to do. That's what the Holy Spirit asked me to do. That's what my intuition asked me to do. That's what the universe asked me to do. Like it all points to the same thing. It's removing myself from the story of my mind and allowing that thing that is bigger than me to choose.
Yeah.
And the more I find I am capable of doing that, the more joyful and easy and relaxed my life becomes.
Yeah. No, I think it's very like that paradigm brings a lot of peace, because you can really begin to accept people for who they are, but also for who they're not. And it's like, and there's don't have to make anything wrong based on our circumstances. What if people just do the things that they do because that's what they're dealing with, and it has nothing to do with our thoughts and ideas and the meaning that we ascribe to it.
Exactly. Like whatever they're going, whatever's happening for them, they're either doing because of their own story that they learned growing up and they're still trapped in that story, or they're doing because that's what their higher self is asking for. One of the
Right.
two. But it has nothing to do with me personally or you personally. It's their story or their journey, one of the two.
Right. Yeah. Everybody is dealing with what they're dealing with. And, whether, like you're saying, whether it's something we're called from our higher self, or it's how we best react to our circumstances, or maybe avoid responsibility for our circumstances. But it's people, we act out of survival, out of fear, out of a lot of emotion. And I mean, there's any reason we can do something, but it's a trap, though, to be stuck in blaming and assuming. And I just feel like it always ends up in hurt when we assume.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, it's the trap of repetition, right? Like when I was stuck in story, I was constantly doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and getting frustrated because nothing ever changed.
Right.
When in reality, the only way things will ever change is if I change. And
right.
if I step outside my story and start being different in this world.
Right. Well, yeah. What if my pain was an opportunity to grow and to rise above it? What if my suffering was an opportunity to be enlightened right now, and right now, and right now?
What if instead of life happening to me, life is happening for me? Like that perspective shift. Yeah. I can't remember who said it. Stephen Levine maybe said it. Change the metaphor, change the world. And that's kind of what we're referring to, right? Like it's like that perspective shift of pain is an opportunity, or instead of pain is something to hide from, pain is something to learn from. Life isn't happening to me, life is happening for me. Change the metaphor, change the world.
Yeah. And, well, that's the question. What if my pain that I'm dealing with, or the future pain, or the pain I'm feeling right now, what if I saw that as an opportunity to grow, to choose to see myself for who I am, rather than hold on to the story and hold on to the pain? Like, what would be possible?
And that starts with asking the question, what choices or decisions did I make that put me in this situation? What is my responsibility for being here? And owning, like, that's where it starts, right there. That question, what did I do to get myself into this situation? Because there's always something.
Yeah. And it might be a boundary you need to set. It might be an apology. It might be saying I love you, or it might be removing yourself. But it's something we have power over.
Exactly.
To overcome.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, let's welcome our guest. I'm really excited to have her with us. Please welcome to the stage Vismaya Rubin.
Vismaya, welcome.
Very happy.
Hello.
I'm backstage taking a piece of a cough drop, hoping that that's not the minute that you're bringing me on as I'm pulling it out of my mouth. I'm like, that would be two things that I did today online that are probably inappropriate. Anyways,
it's
hi, thrilled to be here.
Welcome. Yeah.
Well,
don't worry about inappropriateness here. Professionalism is not something we strive for in this space.
Very happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you and for you to share your story. And if you're ready, Vismaya, the stage is yours.
Let's do this. Hi, everybody. I am Vismaya Rubin. I'm the founder of Living in Gratitude Today. I'm a teacher, speaker, best-selling author. but my favorite role is that of a gratitude gangster. What? So when you say gratitude gangster, you have to go, what? After. So what is a gratitude gangster? A gratitude gangster is a person who is skilled in the art of appreciation, who lives life to the fullest, and who finds magic in life's challenge. And that name was given to me by my high school students when I was a teacher. I was a real life teacher in Miami. I taught high school for 20 years. And if we have time later on, I'll get into how that name came about. But it was interesting because there was a struggle. I wanted to call myself a gratitude gangster, and people were like, you can't say that. Gangsta is not a nice word. You know, what about goddess or guru? And I tried those on and it didn't feel right. And finally I said, you know what? I'm a gratitude gangster, because really when you think of the word gangster, a gangster is a person who will do whatever it takes to get what they want. So when you're a gratitude gangster, you will do whatever it takes to bring you back to that space of joy and love and happiness. And let's face it, nobody wakes up and says, I want to be more grateful today. But you do say, I want to feel happier and more joyful and more connected to the people around me. So what is gratitude? Gratitude is not pretending that life is perfect all the time. It's not about, positive vibes only. That's this new term that we've been hearing lately, toxic positivity. So it's not life is perfect, life is wonderful. Oh my God, I have to be happy all the time. And if I'm not happy, then there's something wrong with me. It's really about embracing the emotions where you are. And I love the conversation that we were having, or that you all were having before I jumped in, because really we do have power. And I think gratitude is that power. Gratitude is not shooting on yourself, and shooting on yourself because, you should be grateful because your life is better than the guy who's, on the street experiencing homelessness. Gratitude is not an attitude. Gratitude is a practice. It's a practice that's something that I can develop and I can grow and I can nurture. And it's the ability to see and to recognize the small and large moments in my life that make me smile, that bring me joy, even if it's only for a second. The other day, my mom was in the hospital, and I was on my way to the hospital to visit her, and I'm driving, and I'll share a tip of how to get to a space of gratitude, but I have the ability now to recognize these moments as they happen. So I'm driving to the hospital, and I'm like, I only have a very limited time because of COVID. The window of opportunity for visitation is very small. So I'm driving to the hospital, and all of a sudden I stop in the middle of the road because on my right-hand side, on my left-hand side, in the middle of the road are ibises. To my right-hand side, there are these storks standing there. And at first I thought they were lawn ornaments, and I'm looking and I'm stopping and I'm my inner 5-year-old is coming out. And for me, that was a moment of gratitude. It was a moment of joy. It was this moment that brought me, and I don't want to say nothing else mattered, but it elevated my mood. It elevated everything. And it was the ability to see that and to take a moment and just experience it and be there and be in it. So a few years ago, I was asked to be my uncle's caregiver. And I went to his assisted living facility, and my cousin's like, listen, he just had 2 surgeries. He needs a caregiver. Even though he's living in the assisted living facility, he's not behaving appropriately. He's giving people a hard time. So I said, okay, I love my uncle. We had a great relationship. I said, I'm going to go. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea what the job entailed, but I said yes, because I love my uncle. So I remember waking up every day and well, let me go back. When he first saw me there, he was so excited to see me. His eyes lit up, and the nurses kept coming in, after a few days, and like, I don't know what you're doing, but your presence here has shifted his whole way of being. As I was driving from Miami to Tampa, I said, my goal is to create 1 gratitude wins for my uncle every day. 1 moment where he feels joy, where he feels happiness, and is not living in his sick body and not feeling that pain and that sadness. So a week goes by, and I wake up every day and I say, today is a great day, or today is going to be a magical day, or today is going to be the best day ever, or some version of that affirmation. I remember this one particular morning I woke up and I was like, today is going to be a great day. And then the voice in my head says, lady, who are you kidding? You're stuck in a room. Your uncle's miserable. You haven't seen the outside. If you go outside, you have to really, fly to the store, fly back because he can't be alone. You don't know the difference between night and day because you've been stuck in this room. You're not getting the work done like you thought you were going to. So who are you kidding? So a great day. Today's going to be a magical day. Are you out of your mind? I have the power to choose. Today's going to be a magical day. Are you crazy? Today is not going to be a magical day. No. And in that moment, I realized that I had to make a choice. I had to make a decision. I said, listen, and I'm talking to all this is internal dialogue. Today is going to be a magical day because I'm choosing today to be a magical day. So the day happens and things are going on as normal. And I remember sitting with my uncle, and the second I got there, I turned off the news, turned on the music. And the one thing I can say about myself is I love to sing. I'm not good at singing. I sing off key. I make up my own words, but I love to sing. So we were listening to some rock and roll, and I was singing every song. And every time, this would happen pretty much every day. I would sing and he would just ignore me or do his thing. And he was very miserable. And I would ask him every day, Uncle, what are you grateful for today? And his usual response was nothing. So on this particular day, I noticed something was different. And what was different is he was starting to poke a little bit of fun at me. And I said, okay. So I know he's starting to feel a little bit better. He's a little more comfortable. And I said, in my heart of hearts, I was like, please the answer I wanted was anything but nothing. So I said, what are you grateful for today? And he turns around, he looks at me and he says, I'm grateful for you. And for me, that was a moment of gratitude, not just for myself, but for him. So when I talk about a moment of gratitude, or I talk about my gratitude wins, what are they? What does it mean? It means going through the day and stopping and asking yourself, what are my gratitude wins? Who or what made a difference for me? What did I do for myself or somebody else? Did I do something new? Did I do something nice? And what made me smile or laugh until my sides hurt? Going through that process a few times a day gives you the opportunity to train your brain to stop and to look for those moments that bring you joy. Fast forward a few years, fast forward to between March and June of this year, I was my dad's caregiver, my stepdad, and I had to clean out his house. He had 87 years worth of stuff. And if you know the movie or the TV show Sanford and Son, he was like Sanford and Son. It was piles upon piles upon piles, toolboxes. He was a mechanic. He was like MacGyver. He could fix anything. And my job was to go into that house, besides managing all of his doctors and his physical therapists, running my business, my job was to clean out the garage and to sell everything. And I remember walking in and feeling just this feeling of overwhelm and sadness and frustration. And I remember sitting there looking at him or looking at him and looking at the stuff and looking at him. And every time I would throw something away, he would go and he would pull it out of the garbage can. And I would lose my cool. I was like, what is going on? And it goes back to that conversation that you all had in the beginning. Like, we have the power to choose, the power of choice. And I remember asking myself, because I was frustrated and I was crying. And I remember sitting in the kitchen one day and I'm doing dishes and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, why me? And why do I have to do this? And why is this happening? And nobody's coming to help me and all that. And the conversation that was running the show was anything less than a space of gratitude. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling sad. I was scared. I was feeling like a victim of my own life. And I remember clear as day asking myself, you choose. If you don't snap out of this or figure out a way to make it work, in 3 months, when he's got to go to an assisted living facility, you're still going to have a garage full of tools. And in that moment, I realized what happened, and I'm like frustrated. And again, I'm like crying and not the pretty kind of cry, but like really just emotions are coming out. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, what does this mean? What's happening? And this is the first time I've really shared this outside of my circle of friends. And I realized, what was going on for me is not just that my dad was moving, but him living in that house for me was a my safe space. It was my security. If anything ever happened to me, I always knew I had a place to go to. And now that's being taken away from me, being uprooted, moving around. And having those moments of clarity, realizing what was really going on for me was a gratitude win. Because you were talking about before, like, we have these opportunities that happen where we say, life is happening to me or life is happening for me. And really being in that space of saying, okay, so this is what's so, how do I pull myself out? And bringing it back to gratitude. Gratitude is the ability to see those moments of joy. So as soon as I got that message, well, you're really sad because what's going on for you is you're starting to feel like your security is being taken away or whatever that is for you. So I started to practice. I started to amp up my gratitude practice. What does that mean? Throughout the day, I stopped and I asked myself, who or what made a difference for me? What did I do for myself? Did I do something new? Did I do something nice? And the more I started to ask those questions of myself, the more I was able to start to see the magical things that were happening. Strangers started to show up and say, this is how you need to tackle this. I want you to go in here and I want you to price this toolbox this much, this toolbox, this price, this, and basically gave me every tool. Another person showed up and said, didn't complain about the price, didn't ask me anything, said, here's the money, I want that one. Another guy came in and said, I want this, this, and this. People showed up. Magical things started to happen. And it was really because I started to see the shift and I was asking myself those serious questions. What am I supposed to learn here? What am I supposed to do here? So I invite you, when you're going through a time where you're feeling like life is scary and life is sad and frustrating, rather than try to push those feelings down, right? With the toxic positivity, good vibes only, you're supposed to be happy and every day is wonderful. Allow yourself to feel the feels, feel what's there. Because if not, it's like a pressure cooker. You're pushing things down and pushing things down and pushing, and then they explode. But feel what's there and have the tools to know what questions to ask. And here are a few of the tools. Like, ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn? Why is this bringing up so much emotion for me? Right? What's happening? What am I making it mean? And then ask yourself periodically, set your alarm to go off. We have phones, we walk around with our phones. Set your phones to go off every 3 to 4 hours and ask yourself, who or what makes a difference for me? What did I do for myself? Did I do something new? Did I do something nice? What made me smile or laugh till my sides hurt? Because again, it's not about an attitude of gratitude. It's about a gratitude practice. It's about training your brain to see those delicious moments that happen on a regular basis. Or maybe not on a regular basis. Different moments happen on a regular basis, but it's training your brain to see what happens to you and for you in your life. And, really the fun part about it is the more you start to do this, the more you start to see these magical moments show up and you start to notice them automatically. You go, a gratitude wins. Like for me, those birds were gratitude wins. For me, these people showing up to say, I want that tool case. Yes, they were bringing me money and the tools were going out, but it was more about the energy and what they brought and what they shared and being able to receive that. So I invite you to take it on. It's not a gratitude practice where every day is perfect and wonderful and fabulous. It's a gratitude practice. If I said that, let me rephrase that. It's not an attitude of gratitude where life is full of unicorns and rainbows and everything is perfect every moment of the day. We can create those moments, but through a specific, calculated practice. So I invite you to join me and become a gratitude gangsta.
I love it. Thank you so much, Vismaya. I love that you ran with the gratitude gangsta, and it really does work. It really fits, and I love I love how you own it. You just like, it's like, oh, can't you just do it? It's a little inappropriate. Can't you just do goddess or guru? And you're like, no, I'm a gratitude gangsta.
And it was created, that term came about through my 10th grade students.
Really?
Yeah. So they said that. Do we have a few minutes where I can share the story real quickly?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I was teaching, I was teaching a writing class, but imagine 9th and 10th graders come into my class the first day of school. And I said, all right, guys, I'm Ms. Rubin, and here's what we're going to do. every month you're going to create a gratitude chart, and I want you to write down 20 things that are unique to the month that you're grateful for. They looked at me like I had 3 heads, that I was the stupidest woman that had ever walked the earth, that I was on some serious drugs. And they were like, we're not doing this. This is dumb. She's stupid. And I have nothing to be grateful for. Then the bold one said, Miss, well, I'm going to lie. And I said, perfect, lie. I said, as long as I have a chart with 20 things, we're good. So we started, and they would do it day in, every month they had to do it. And they saw it on the board every day, gratitude chart. I would talk to them about the power of gratitude. We would talk about we did some research on gratitude because it was a writing class. So I had the ability to really read the research that I wanted to read with them. So on this particular day, it was my 10th grade class. And we were sitting around, we had just read 2 stories about people who had gone in, 2 teens that were in gangs, and they both got out. And we were comparing and contrasting why they went into the gangs and why they got out. And I knew I was asking a question. I was opening up Pandora's box. I'm like, man, why would anybody want to be in a gang? Now, some of my kids came from, the rough side of town, and some of them were in gangs. And one of them looked at me and they're like, Miss, we're in a gang. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just get myself into? And I said, really? Tell me more. And he's like, we're in a gang. We're in, what did he say? He's like, we're gangsters. We're gratitude gangsters. And I sat back and I almost cried. And then, this was Alex who said it. And then William looks over and he's like, yeah, man, we walk around and say, I like your shoes and I like your shirt. And Alex walks in and he's like, we walk in with those guns. I'm like, no guns. And he's like, Miss, the guns that have the flags that say thank you. He goes, that's what we do. And in that moment, I realized that my students had really understood the power of a gratitude practice. And they really understood the power of finding those moments that bring them joy. So I said, do you mind if I use that term, gratitude gangster? And he's like, run with it. So that's really how it came about. And when people would say to me, you can't say that, the rebellious side of me is like, don't tell me what I can say and what I can't say, seriously. So now I embrace that. I love it. And that is who I am.
I love that so much. And what I mean, it works for a lot of reasons, but I love that as you pointed out in your sharing, it dispels that it's all about just this false positivity and everything's rainbows and butterflies. And it's like, it dispels that it's this deluding yourself or having this illusion of everything's great and everything's perfect. And it's like, la, 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 everything's great. And I love it because it takes courage. It takes being bold. It takes really being confronted. I feel like the most important time to be grateful is when it's the most difficult.
I agree wholeheartedly. Walking into my dad's house, I knew what I was getting into. Obviously, I was like an overwhelm. It sucked. It was 3 months of complete and utter papers that I had to go through paper by 87 years worth of papers. I was shredding tax reports from 1950 because he didn't throw them away, so it was tedious and it was challenging and there was a lot to get done. But being able to see those moments that were joyful, listening to him sit on the couch and go, look at the butterflies outside and the lizards that were running around, these new crazy lizards that came to South Florida. But it's the ability for me to see. The ability, and this is what the practice does, it's the ability to open your eyes and to remove the curtains and all the fog and whatever's there, even in the middle of challenges, and see those moments that bring you joy, even if it's literally momentarily.
Well, that's not the only thing it does. Like, as you pointed out in your story, and this was one of my favorite parts of your sharing, was it also attracts others to you who are in that space as well. Like, just the magic that happened as you started that practice working with your dad, and the guy who shows up and just says, these are how much these tools are worth. And then someone else comes up and buys them for that exact price. Like, that experience is something that, like, I have a tendency to fall into and fall out of as my life goes on. And it's only been recently that I've actually connected it with gratitude. And so to cultivate that practice, because I cultivated an attitude for a long time. Like in fact, one of the things that just came out of my mouth not so long ago was gratitude is the attitude for altitude. And that's not quite it, is it? It's gratitude is the practice that creates altitude.
For me, that's how I see it. Because I think when we talk about an attitude, it almost makes people feel bad. If I don't wake up and go, yes, I'm so grateful to be alive. Like it's something I have to work at. And I think, for some people, they wake up and they're Susie Sunshine, and that's fabulous. That's not my energy. That's not how I wake up. Again, it's something I get to cultivate. It's something I get to practice. I get to look for. I get to search. And there's power in searching and scanning through your day. If you really want to change the neuros and the pathways of your brain, you need to start to search, or you get to search for those moments that bring you joy. People who wake up and say, I'm happy to be alive and I'm happy for my life. And I'm happy that I have children and I'm happy I have a house. That's great. But the act of looking for unique things to your day, like the lizard who crossed my path, or the man who came in, or the fact that, I had a raincoat in my car and I could give it to a person experiencing homelessness outside, or whatever it is, or I didn't eat the chocolate cake today. Those moments and looking for those things, that's really what elevates and what starts to shift the brain and see new things.
Yeah. And as that shift happens, like more and more synchronicities start to happen in my life as well.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said, it's literally magic. Like I've never come up with a better word to describe it other than it's magic, because from that place of gratitude, through that practice of gratitude, everything that I've needed has always come right when I need it. Like I live a life of abundance, not because I have a lot of things, but because I always have enough.
And I love that. It's magic. And I also really want to be responsible in saying this. It's also science.
Yeah.
Because it changes the brain, the way your brain works. So magic is my favorite word, like I love magic. But there's also the science behind it. So if somebody's listening and they're like, oh, she's very woo-woo and that hippy dippy stuff, it's not hippy dippy. There's science behind that shows that when you scan throughout your day, and the way you scan throughout your day is to stop and ask those questions that I shared. When you scan throughout your day and you find those moments, that's the science, because you're changing the way, the neural pathways of your brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And science may not know exactly what all that leads to, but it is showing that it does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
well, sorry,
no,
finish
go
your
ahead.
thought.
No,
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say it's for me. It always comes back to the metaphor of the garden. It's like, gratitude is it's like whatever we focus on is what we water, and we could just like the movie Groundhog's Day. We could go throughout our life and live the same day over and over and see everything that's bad and look for everything. I mean, if we wanted to, we could find a bunch of bad things and a bunch of terrible things in our day if we focused, and that was our intention. But it's the context. But we also could do the same exact day on repeat and find the beauty and find the opportunity to contribute and find the opportunity to uplift and to experience joy and laughter. And that's where the choice is. It's, what are we seeking? What are we looking for? Are we looking for the things to be upset about, or are we looking for the things to be joyful about? Even when the circumstances are, maybe it's a challenge. Maybe we're in prison, or maybe we're in a literal prison, or we're in a conceptual prison. And, but it's the choice to look. We can find, there's always something to be grateful for when we're willing to look.
It's funny when you say that, because I was, we the three of us, we spoke backstage, and we've all done this transformational workshop at different times. And I remember, writing down the story of my life and having to repeat the story of my life so many times, to the point that I was like, I cannot hear this anymore. And that's such a great practice. You ask, what are the thoughts in your mind, or what are the conversations you're having, or what are the stories you're sharing with everybody? And I've put into practice, really, if it's not a good story, I'm not sharing it anymore. And sometimes I have to cut myself off, because I want to rant and rave, oh my God, you know what this guy did? No, it's not a good story. I'm sorry to cut you off in the middle. I'm not sharing it anymore. Sorry. But really, what is it? Being responsible for the conversations that we're having, and not, it's not about creating a falsehood of positivity, but it's about stopping those thoughts and that kind of like that crazy train that, life is hard and life sucks and life isn't good, and stopping it mid-sentence and saying no more and creating a space to see something beautiful. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can catch well, just kind of to your point, I think when we're willing to look and to listen to our own interior dialogue, we can even be grateful to that negative voice and laugh. Like, it's like, because I've been on both sides of it where I've noticed like myself chasing a negative thought, and I'll make myself feel bad about it. I'm wrong. Like, oh, it's like, oh, how could I feel that? Like, I'll like make it worse, so to speak. But at the same time, you can see it's like real. It's like it's like the most beautiful sunny day. I just had the most delicious meal of my life. I'm surrounded by people I love, and I'm worried about this person who cut me off, or I'm worried about. It's like we can laugh at that voice because it's from this place of survival of it's like, but it's an opportunity. It's like gratitude is a practice in every moment, even when that interior dialogue derails a great day. Right. We can laugh at it.
And I think it's important to say and to really recognize, though, that there are moments in life where you're going to be sad. There are moments in life where you're going to be angry or frustrated. And I think, again, being responsible is not allowing ourselves to stay stuck in that. During the pandemic, I remember people were saying, oh, it's positive vibes only, be happy, be grateful, and I was like, I was getting frustrated because I could hear people like sad because they lost their job, or they weren't sure where how they were gonna pay their rent, or how they were gonna feed their kids, and this false sense of positivity of being, oh my God, everything is wonderful, does not give us the space to create. So I think that to be very responsible is it's okay to feel not okay, and having the tools in place allow you to pull yourself out of that place. Like when I moved into my dad's house, I have all the tools in the world, and I started to go down a rabbit hole. And I finally was like, listen, you need to figure some stuff out, because if not, it's not going to be pretty. But I had those tools,
Exactly. And that points to what we were talking about before you came on, which is the power of choice. And the thing about choice is, if you don't know you have a choice, often by default, you're choosing the kind of more painful stories, right? Like, so there's a lot of things that this practice, like, there's a domino effect of things that happen when you start the gratitude practice. And one of them is also starting to recognize your own inner dialogue, which is what you were talking about earlier before, with your story with your dad. And in recognizing the inner dialogue, there's this realization that, oh, this narrative that's been going on in my head, it hasn't been helpful. It hasn't been positive. It hasn't been, and that goes back to what you're talking about changing the neurons in your brain, because the brain is like a muscle. What you focus on, that's the pathways and that's the thoughts that it tends to create more and more often. And if you've been constantly focusing on the negative and the down and out and the things that worry you and the things that scare you, those are the thoughts that are going to consistently be generated by your mind. But if you switch and you start actually this gratitude practice or an awareness practice, then you're literally retraining your brain at that point in time. And all of the things that come from that are phenomenal in my experience. Like it's one, recognizing that, oh, these thoughts do exist. Two, recognizing that I have the choice to continue thinking them or to change and do something different, like you just said. And three, it brings about all those synchronistic events where like magic just starts to happen. And that's the part I can't explain. And that's the part I don't know if science can explain either, but like I've experienced it. So I know it happens. Like it's almost insane, but it's fun, and I'm extremely grateful I've had that experience.
I hear you. And I think the other thing is when people, if they don't have the tools and they're in the middle of that, it can be challenging. Like they hear things, oh, think of something you're grateful for. They hear that and they're like, are you kidding me? You don't know my life. I was having this discussion because I'm on a mental health panel with women, and we talk about putting affirmations up, and if you're in the middle of in the thick of feeling horrible, and somebody says, well, just pick up an affirmation and say today's going to be a great day, you're like, are you kidding me? And really the power in what that does is it's a mind trick. It tells your mind, okay, I'm feeling sad, but even for a second, it stops the pattern. It refocuses the pattern. And I think that's the power, is like having little tools in place. First of all, practice gratitude when life is great, and really be cognizant of the things that are happening in your life that are wonderful, that are fabulous. I made the joke, I didn't eat the cake today. I ate an apple instead of the cake. That's a victory over the past, for me, maybe not for everybody else, but paying attention to those small victories that happen throughout the day when life is great makes it easier to do when life is challenging. But if anybody's listening and they're going through something, and they don't know where to start, the place to start is to stop. First of all, give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling, and then start to look throughout the day for those moments, and set the alarm to go off and do that activity so that you can experience the magic.
I love it. It's so powerful. I mean, it's how every I mean, and I like how I was going to ask you, how does one begin? Where do you start, with gratitude? Because we've all been in the space, and it's like, we're going through the ringer of a day, all these things are happening, or, just whatever it is. And, it's like, well, what are you grateful for? And it's like the last thing you want to hear. It's like, well, what do you mean? What am I grateful for? I just got fired. My dad's sick, and this is happening. I love how you put it, and I really just acknowledge and admire your being. Who you're being is just is inspiring, because you are a reminder that we always have that choice, and that you're the light that's always finding that thing to be grateful for, especially when maybe on the surface it doesn't feel like there's something to be grateful for. Maybe it feels like there's just something, just some pain to ruminate in, rather than to search for gratitude. And I love it. Gratitude gangsta. It's so perfect.
Thank you. You know what? And honestly, if somebody was dealing with all of that stuff, the first thing I would say to them is feel it. Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar is one of my favorite positive psychologists. And he was asked one day, he's like, do you ever experience negative emotions? And he's like, there are only two types of people who never experience negative emotions. Do you know who they are? Any idea?
I'm gonna guess psychopaths and sociopaths.
Okay, psychopaths is one.
Yeah.
And who's the other one?
Dead people.
Yes, you're the first group of people that has ever said both. So right, so psychopaths and dead people, and it's kind of, I say this in jest, but if you're feeling negative emotions, you have something to be grateful for, because you're not a psychopath and you're not dead. If you lost your job and your dad is feeling sick, you're supposed to not supposed to, but that's a normal feeling to feel sad. And I think that when we get into these spaces of I have to be happy, no, it's not about faking being happy. It's about finding those moments of joy in the midst of all of that.
That's such a beautiful example, because it's in essence that's gratitude. Like that is a practice of gratitude. It's like, it's being grateful for, I'm not a psychopath and I'm not dead.
Can I share one last story? This was really what got things like going for me. And this is back to my uncle again. But so my aunt was in the hospital, my uncle's wife, and this was in 2013. And if I tell you, February 14th of 2013, my dad had part of his lung removed on Valentine's Day. 2 days later, my cousin's husband was killed. 3 weeks later, my aunt went into the hospital, and we knew that was the end. And 3 weeks after that, my mom had a stroke. It was not a really good time in my family. And I remember one time being in the hospital with my aunt, and she kicked everybody out of the room, and she points to me and she says, stay for a minute. I'm like, okay. And she says, I need you to help me with my bedpan. Okay. There were other people in the room that I thought she would ask to help before me, but I said, no problem. And I did what she asked me to do. And I was driving home, and it was like a 45-minute drive, and it was raining. And I remember I couldn't tell if it was because the rain was it was raining so hard, or the tears were just pouring out. And these were tears of sadness, but they were also tears of gratitude, because I pulled off the road for a second, and I just started to think, and I realized that what my aunt said at that moment was, I love you and I trust you. Those words were never spoken. So I went through this very sad, we knew this was it. You could see her body was starting to deteriorate, but it's being able to see those delicious moments and feel them even in the midst of the pain. And I knew I was onto something at that point. I was like, oh my God. So, and I remember sharing the story with somebody, telling her about all the events that were going on. And she says, Vismaya, I love you, but I have to stay away from you. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, all these bad things are happening to you and your family. I can't be around you. And I looked at her and I said, have you not heard one thing I've said? I've told you what was so, but I've never said to you, I never stayed in that space of, oh my God, all these bad things are happening. I kept showing you all the miracles, or telling you about all the miracles that kept showing up. And she's like, wow, you know what? You're right. And I realized in that time that if I could find miracles throughout that 3-month period, that I was onto something. So this stuff works.
That's amazing. And that's so powerful. The last thing you said, with your friend, because one person's gratitude can be another person's, tragedy. And it's like, she didn't even hear the gratitude. And I think and it's like a perspective, and it is a paradigm, when you're sharing about what's happened and what's so, she heard, oh my God, it's terrible and it's awful and there's nothing. And you were just sharing this beautiful, moments of that you were grateful for. And she didn't hear it until you kind of doubled back and said, like, did you hear what I said? Like, these are miracles in the face of these trying situations and these trying circumstances. But I think that's why it's so easy to miss gratitude. It's so easy to forget it, because we can look at any situation with two sides of the coin. We can always look at it as bad and terrible, and this is what's happening to me, and it's awful, and I'm scared, and I'm afraid, and I'm sad. And we're going to feel our feelings, but you are kind of living proof that you can choose in the face of no matter what you're facing. You can choose to be grateful. You can choose to see the miracles, and as you call them, those delicious moments. And it's just I'm so inspired by you, because it's just that reminder that every moment can be a delicious moment.
Thank you. I received that.
I'm curious, did you keep in touch with your kids from your writing class, the ones who coined the gratitude gangster?
I see them online, on social media. Some of them, yes.
How are they today?
Huh?
How are they today?
I ask them when I talk to them if they still keep up their gratitude practice, and a lot of them will say no. And it's funny because sometimes people are like, don't share that. Say it changed their life forever. And I think that there's, power there, because the truth is it's like any other practice. If you stop, it stops. You stop going to the gym, your muscles get saggy and weak. If you stop your gratitude practice, your gratitude muscle gets soggy and weak. And I know that their perspective on things have changed. I know that even when they were in my class, like they would come up to me towards the end of the year excited to give me their gratitude charts. And I remember one of them said to me, Miss, I realize that I spend so much time with my family. I realize how lucky I am that I have that relationship with my family. I realize that, my brother and I have been getting along a whole lot better. So it's like anything else. So if you're not using it, you lose it. If you're not constantly saying to yourself, what happened? What are you making it mean? You're going to be a story making machine all day long if you're not pulling yourself out of that rut. So Some of them are fantastic and they're wonderful, but again, it's about the practice, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. And that reminder is, at the end of the day, this is something we do to ourselves or we don't do.
Mm.
And if we
I
don't do, the only person we have to blame is,
Yeah. And yeah.
yeah, it's so amazing. You know, everything you've shared is just it's a beautiful reminder for me, and I know there's so much value that you're just offering and you're sharing. But just before we end, just to stick with the gratitude gangsta title, you know, what's the next big hit? Like, what's the big like what is the what's the big gratitude hit, you know, for you? You know, what, like, where do you see in the like, without knowing what the future will bring, like, where do you see this headed, in just in who you're being and in this paradigm, this beautiful practice that you're sharing with us?
So my long-term vision
Mm.
is I have my gratitude mobile. I have a movement, an online movement, and it's really beautiful. I have a community that I've built, but it's really, my vision is I'm traveling the United States in my gratitude mobile, doing pop-up gratitude talks and really sharing that message, because if I practice gratitude and I'm teaching it to my kids, it's the domino effect of the more we practice, if the more our community practices. Can you imagine where everybody is, instead of looking for what's wrong, we're starting to look for what's right? The power of what that would do in our communities. So I see the community blowing up. I see thousands of people in it, and not just changing their life. You know, I'm all about the kids. Like, I was a high school teacher, so I really believe that when people practice gratitude and they share that with their children and our kids grow up and they have that practice, it makes those teen years so much easier for them and they have less angst. And when we have teens that are, you know, the next generation, and it's really about the kids for me. It's yes, I want to reach the adults, but because the adults are the ones that are dealing with our children.
oh,
So the
yeah, if there's
Living in
anything we
Gratitude
can
Today
do.
movement is blowing up, and the Gratitude Mobile is everywhere. That's to answer it very short.
What's your website? What's the website?
Livingingratitudetoday.com.
If I can type. And just while I'm typing this out, if there's anything we can do to support you in this, please let us know. Like, this is something that I feel very near and dear to my heart, and I share gratitude wherever I can. And so, if there's anything we can do to share your message, to get out there, if there's anything you think we can do to help, please just reach out.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, and the movement is really, that's where I want the support, is with growing the movement. The movement is I send out an email every day, Monday through Friday, and it's a gratitude tip. And it's really an action step to get people in the space of, if nothing else they do, if they do one little thing on that gratitude email, they've created a gratitude wins for the day. So they can at least say, they can't say the whole day was horrible, because they have that one moment where they've done something that was powerful. So that's really where I would love to share that message and to get it out there, is, you know, you need support. I've got support for you.
And you said it was livingingratitudetoday.com?
Yep.
Okay.
The
Thank you so
website
much.
is being revamped right now, but you still see it.
Well, I'm grateful for you, Vismaya. And
Thank you.
it's a really just so inspiring, and I would, you know, we'd really love for you to come back and share some more with us. This has been such an amazing conversation, and I'm just, like I said, I'm really inspired by who you're being, and it's that reminder. It's like, you know, I always forget. I forget gratitude. I'll treat it like a checklist, and rather than a practice. It's like, well, I was grateful, and then the next time I feel bad, and I'll forget that it's even a thing. And you are just a testament to what's possible when we choose to be grateful, and when we choose to see what's right and what's beautiful, even when our circumstances are on the contrary to that. And just thank you so much. And thank you for just sharing your love and your light and your beautiful lessons and your wisdom. But just thank you again for being with us today.
It was my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, this has been episode 98. Thank you all for being with us. And I'm going to take this opportunity right now to invite you to share and be on this stage. You have gifts, you have beautiful, unique genius and contributions that lift us all up. And that's why we're here, is to share the gift that you are and the wisdom that you have to share. So we invite you and really encourage you to be a part of the stage. Go to the website on the bottom of the screen and to share that unique gift and genius that you are. And this is an open invitation. This is our grand picnic, and you're invited, and we know you have something that lifts us all up, because we know together we rise. And that's really what, our mission here for One Day is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's part of our vision. Our big vision, what this is all about, is humanity rising in a connected world with each person's unique gifts, genius, and contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's what this is about. One conversation, one moment at a time, where we hold hands and we lift each other up, and new possibilities emerge, because who we're being is so much greater than the things that will hold us back, the fear, the pain, the survival. This is a new paradigm of being, and that's why One Day is today. I love you all. Be safe, be well, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Peace.